Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. And I'm your host, Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols. Thank you so much for joining us here on a Monday. I know the weekend's over. A lot of people probably slept in yesterday because, well, where I was, it was raining. So it's kind of a gray day, a little gloomy. Yeah, so I was just, resting. Not really running around anywhere because it was kind of yucky outside. But yes, thank you again for joining us. So, definitely, this is our Monday recap. So, we'll be getting a lot into the news that happened pretty much from like Thursday till, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Uh, yeah, it's been a very busy news cycle. And want to thank everybody that will be joining us here on X, YouTube, and Facebook. And Righteous Anger, thank you so much for reposting the stream. I did some different, I should say, spaces. Yeah, on X over the weekend. I like to get a different perspective. So I went into the general space and I got to hear a little bit of perspective from those that are Caucasian, right? And with majority and minority voices included also. So that was really good. I got to spend a little bit of time in some other spaces talking about how, and it's very interesting how pastors are trying to conflate, and it may not just be pastors, but people, I should say, from a religious perspective, they are trying to conflate or juxtapose illegal immigration with the Bible, right? Saying that, we need to be welcoming to people and we need to do this. And it's like, no, even in the Bible, there was delineation. Even in the Bible, God said, okay, you need to come out amongst from certain people because their views and their religious practices are going to lead you astray from me. I mean, they're even with Solomon, right? He had a lot of money. He asked God for wisdom. God gave him wisdom, but he still got led astray by some of his wives because of their religious practices, right? They were worshiping idols and they had uh, just different beliefs, and it led him astray from God. And so he didn't make the best decisions. That's why, when he does the Songs of Solomon, when you read through that, he talks about how, you know, at the end of it, things tend to be meaningless, not in a bad way, but because you've done them repetitiously over and over again, they lose their fervor. But he was like, there's nothing new under the sun. And there truly isn't. We can definitely look at the Bible and look at some of the things that are happening within our world and be like, yeah, if this happened thousands of years ago and it's still happening now, no, there's nothing new under the sun. But I would just encourage anyone out there, if there's ever a time that somebody is trying to justify illegal activity with the Bible, note them and run. That's all I gotta say. Because God's not going to promote illegal activity. He's just not. That's not something he does. Now, some people will say, "Well, the lady, I want to say it was in the book. I don't quote me on this, but there is a book where there was a woman and she did lie for some of the men that came to spy. Right? She did. She lied. And those men said, "You'll be rewarded for hiding us." And that happened. And she was. She was rewarded for hiding these people because they were doing God's work and they were like, "Look, we got to get in here. We got to kind of get things done. Can you give us some cover?" And when they did that, they said, God will not forget you for what you've done to help us. So I can't say that I haven't seen anything like that in the Bible where they I mean, it did. It happened, but in its greater context, you know, she was helping men of God so that they could carry out God's purpose, and God will use anyone he chooses. But what I'm saying is when somebody directly tells you violate the law in the name of God, like, don't don't do that. Do not do that. Do not get caught up in that. And righteous anger says, yes, grand rising. 4:07 a.m. in California. Thank you. Wow, you are up bright and early. Okay, thank you so much for joining me here that early. But yes, be very careful with yourselves spiritually. I mean, I definitely have to do that. And thank you for the emojis, righteous anger. I appreciate it. Because I want people, especially, on this program that I'm doing, because, Unfiltered Vision News is, news with a Christian perspective. That's why I do talk about God a lot. That's why I do have prayer with Fridays. And I do have different individuals that have a spiritual background on this show because at the end of all of this, it is a spiritual battle at the end of the day, you know, that is what's happening. And I want people to be in a good place. You know, I'm probably going to spend a little bit of time, not today, but maybe tomorrow on it's called RTTL, Return to the Land. They've been under fire for, wanting to be amongst themselves. And basically, and this is my opinion, they're in an enclave, and there are different, I should say, ethnicities or, yeah, different ethnicities, different ethnic groups. They will stay in what is called an enclave. And so if you look at like little Italy or Chinatown or anything like that, that is an enclave, meaning they are a specific ethnic group in a specific area. It doesn't mean that no one else can come in or out of that area, but it's just that they carry the majority that's there, period. And so with the return to the land, they're just saying, okay, we want to live amongst ourselves. We really don't want to invite other people into our live. I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's your business. Why y'all giving them such a hard time about it? You don't mess with the Amish. You don't mess with Midianites. You don't mess with these other groups. Why are you messing with them? And so I really want to take some time and get into that tomorrow, but not today, but definitely tomorrow. And just, maybe get an opinion from those out there. Is it okay? I know that there are, different individuals that are Black Americans that started, and they wanted to buy up some land and start an all Black town where they would carry the majority. Now, I don't know if they said, okay, we're just not going to sell property to anybody else, right? I don't know. I'm not sure how they were co-opting the land to how should I say it, develop, if that makes sense. So, oh, and Righteous Singer says, see you on YouTube. Okay, thank you. Wow. Okay, on X and on YouTube. I love it. I love it. Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes, thank you. And you were bye-bye. Hell yeah. Grand rising. Thank you. And thank you so much for just being on both platforms because sometimes I don't know if people can see me, especially on Facebook. I never get anybody here on Facebook. And I know I'm live on Facebook because I see it. I see my rebroadcast, but I could be shadow banned. I don't know. Facebook is weird. So I'm there because there are people that I know there. I have a decent amount of people that do follow me on that platform. I know I'm rambling a little bit and I'll get into the news, but yes, return to the land, something I'm going to cover this week. But let us get into the news. Now, I do follow Cash Jordan, and he is on YouTube. He's got an excellent video, and he's just recapping some of the, how should I say, interactions with ICE that people have been having. So I definitely, just wanted to check out this video.
Leads troopers on a wild chase in Orlando.
And the suspect ended up crashing through a woman's fence.
So after 4 years of a wide open border, America's roadways are now hotspots of criminal activity. And we aren't just talking about illegal fugitives driving their vehicles through the homes of the law-abiding. We're also talking about smugglers and criminals transporting other criminals through America in ways that will shock you. Yet even with all of this criminal activity, activists are furious that traffic stops are turning into ICE raids.
I'm getting out. Well, you should have done it already.
This is not okay.
38-year-old chiropractor Mahdi Khanbabazadeh was pulled over by ICE agents. According to ICE, he had overstayed the term of his visa.
So according to FHP, this all stems from an ongoing investigation into members tied to the gang Tren de Aragua.
After crashing the car, the driver, Diego Cardenas Osorio, took off on foot, leaving a female passenger behind.
According to sources, ICE was with Avon police yesterday as they conducted dozens and dozens of traffic stops throughout the town. We're told authorities arrested 20 people. Who those people are and why they were arrested has not been shared.
Let him go!
She took this video of what appears to be ICE agents pulling the man, Edgardo David Campos, from the driver's seat and taking him away in an unmarked car. Romero posted the video on social media to try and find the man's family.
Cardenas Osorio was found nearby, hiding in a shed on someone's property. Now, according to records, he's been arrested and charged with multiple felonies over the last few years.
So if you're in America illegally, a traffic stop could be your ticket to Florida's new mega prison. And what nobody's talking about is all of the supposed outrage over immigration enforcement at traffic stops can only mean one thing, which is that this is working. And it has to, because frighteningly, the number of crimes committed on our roadways by those without legal permission to be here has skyrocketed over the last 4 years. And countless lives have been impacted by drivers with no regard for our laws or the safety of others, but that's now coming to an end. And if you think about it, immigration enforcement on our roadways makes a lot of sense because it's impossible to live in most of America without the ability to drive. Therefore, everyone drives. And when pulled over, many illegal immigrants present fake or expired IDs to police officers while they're driving vehicles that could be stolen or at a minimum are lacking the proper insurance and proper license plates, making these drivers a danger to everyone on the road. Plus, anyone with car insurance knows our entire country is paying the price for disorderly highways regardless of our politics every single time our premiums go up. Which brings us to the real reason these roadway crackdowns make so much sense. Not only will they make America safer almost immediately, but if you're ICE and you've got to arrest a dangerous fugitive, arresting them when they're trapped in their car on the side of the road is a lot safer than when they're fleeing down the street or barricaded in an apartment somewhere. On top of that, cars with fake plates, non-working safety features, these are easy for law enforcement to spot, helping them zone in on criminals quickly. And one truly surprising result of this is how much traffic in certain sanctuary cities has suspiciously dissipated, with local progressives attributing the empty roads and streets they see to the mere idea that ICE is in town enforcing the law. Just like this. That right there is the luckiest federal fugitive in the entire world, because after he assaulted those agents with his vehicle, they were ready to escalate matters if needed, but their training is so good they didn't have to, and they still safely took their assailant into custody. But as you're about to see, running things over, that's something illegal fugitive drivers have done before.
And John, that's correct. So according to FHP, this all stems from an ongoing investigation into members tied to the gang Tren de Aragua. Law enforcement was in the area doing surveillance on a home that's known to be associated with that gang when they saw this suspect walk out the front door. He has a warrant out for his arrest, so troopers tried to make contact, but he took off, leading them on that chase, which ended with him crashing through a fence and running away.
So this house, the people who live here, they are very fortunate the whole place wasn't totally wiped out. And what's truly ridiculous is this suspect, he was in an apartment or home run by gang members. Police were surveilling it. He comes out, there's a warrant for him, they go after him, then he leads them on this chase, plows into this home, and then what does he do? He tries to hide in other people's property. So they didn't find him at the scene of this crash. He was able to flee from that. Apparently he had a passenger in the vehicle with him as well. And then they found him hiding in somebody else's shed just a few homes over. That's crazy. But there's a whole nother angle to this traffic enforcement related angle to ICE and what they're up to. The media wants you to think that for some reason, ICE pulling anybody over and detaining them if they're in the country illegally is some grave injustice that every American should be outraged over.
A normal day turned upside down.
Hello, sir. How are you doing today? Good, thank you so much.
A normal day as a fugitive in America.
Go ahead and roll your window all the way down. Why? What's going on? Go ahead and roll your window all the way down.
He's already not cooperating.
I have a baby in the car. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah.
As 38-year-old chiropractor Mahdi Khanbabazadeh was pulled over by ICE agents while dropping his child off at daycare. According to ICE, he had overstayed the term of his visa.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, shouldn't have done that.
Where are you heading? Daycare. I'm sorry? Daycare.
So before we get into what happens next, it's important to understand that if you're a parent and you enter a country and then you decide to break that country's laws, if you happen to be with your family when the police track you down, something's going to happen, and sadly, your kids are going to have to watch this.
He gives them the ID, and then the video jumps from 8:17 a.m. to 8:32 a.m., where you see Khanbabazadeh consoling his son.
Mommy's coming now. Okay?
The video then jumps to 8:42 a.m., where things escalate. According to ICE, Khanbabazadeh stopped cooperating.
Look, he's trying to film them.
Resisted arrest and refused to exit his vehicle, resulting in ICE officers making entry by breaking one of his windows.
Okay, if this is happening to your vehicle, you haven't obeyed the orders that the officers have given you. They've told you to get out of the car. They have the ability to haul you out of the car. And for some reason, everybody wants to act tough. You can see him here fiddling with his phone in his hand.
But see, what I find most interesting and fascinating is that this person is not only in the country illegally, this person is a physician. This person is actually working in a licensed capacity. Their visa is over. Like, you're weird, because in order to be, in any medical profession, you have to have your documentation up to current, or you can't renew the other licenses that you're required to have to even work. So how is your visa lapsed? Okay. Like what's really going on? And it's almost like, to a lot, into Cash's point, it's like, why aren't you complying with the police and you have a child in the car, period? Like, you need to comply. And he sat in that car over 20 minutes. And then they finally had to break in. And of course, you will hear this on mainstream news and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Yeah, I can believe it, and go home. Yes, your family's going to be separated. Oh, well, you broke the law, period. There's no more conversation. You broke the law, you're leaving. And that's it. Regardless of whether you have a family. See, everybody should have thought about that when they went into this. But nobody's thinking about that when they go into this. It's crazy. And Dr. C, thank you so much for reposting the stream, and greetings to you as well. Thank you so much for your greetings. She says, greetings, founder. Yeah, so let's continue on.
And trying to record them, possibly trying to make TikTok videos or something. Everybody wants to be tough before the police get the jaws of life and start bringing people out of their vehicles.
I'm getting out. Well, you should have done it already.
Right.
This moment has sparked major controversy, and Marco Mejia of the Deportation Defense Coalition says it is traumatic
Deportation
for
defense.
immigrant communities to witness.
Sure.
For me, it's very traumatic. I am a migrant too, and I came from a country where I grew up in with dictatorships. So that is a trauma that they create into this family.
Well, hold on a second, buddy. If you're here legally and the gentleman getting hauled out of his vehicle is not here legally, then there's a big difference between these two people. But there's this false equivalency that's just being created between illegal immigrants and immigrants, and it's done on purpose. It's done to make people think ICE is out of control, and everybody who's not a natural-born American is going to get deported for some reason. And the truly sad thing about this is that when parents break the law, oftentimes their immediate family suffers, and that is not the fault of ICE. It's not ICE's fault you brought your child with you when you were committing crime, driving around in America, living just another normal day as a fugitive in our country with no regard to our rules. And the thing that's fascinating about this is this person's apparently educated. They're a chiropractor. They're a doctor. How can they possibly think law doesn't apply to them?
That is a trauma that they create into this family.
Once the window is broken and Khan Babazadeh is asked to step out of the car, he is arrested. And the moment is met with frustration by not only him, but also a witness.
Oh my goodness.
This is not okay.
Yes, it is.
And no one here will identify themselves to me.
If they keep doing this, they are creating a generation of people that are going to be traumatized and very angry about what the government is doing.
I don't know about that.
Khan Babazadeh is now detained in an ICE facility in Tacoma and is scheduled for a bond hearing tomorrow.
So what's fascinating is this idea that ICE is out there traumatizing people. They're not traumatizing anybody. What they're doing is they're enforcing the law, and now suddenly people want to obey the law. Isn't that fascinating? You do a tiny bit of law enforcement, and now look at that, laws start getting followed everywhere, and people say, gee, I don't want to go break the law because there might finally be a consequence, even though there wasn't for a very long time. You see how this works? You let people...
Yeah, I'm going to stop the video really quick because I got some feedback from Bye Bye. She said, he's underestimated our law enforcement. Actually, yeah, you're absolutely right. And had years to comply. Absolutely had years to comply. It's like, you know how your visa works. Like, what are you doing? And why are you, how are you married? You're working as a physician. You have a child and you're still on a visa? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, I would think at a certain juncture, because if you're married, you wouldn't be on a visa anymore. You would be in your relationship, right? And obviously you do have to still check in with immigration, but it's no longer a visa. So are you married? Like, that's just weird. I'm just saying that none of this is adding up the right way. And Bye Bye also says teaching children to break the law, add on charges. I say, yeah, you are teaching your children how to break the law when you do things like this, because you're trying to garner, false emotions, and you're trying to make people feel sorry for you, and you're breaking the law. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The manipulation and the gaslighting that is happening with immigration is beyond the pale, in my opinion. It is disgusting, because people really want you to champion illegal immigration. And there's going to be some, more videos that I show from here. But I don't know if any of you out there find it interesting, but I do, that we have a whole party, and it is the Democratic Party, and they're pushing for illegal immigration. They're not pushing to say, hey, we need to help these people become legal, and we need people to self-deport so that they can come back here the right way and respect our country. Nobody in the Democratic Party is saying that. They just want to they really want amnesty is what they want. And that's what the Dignity Act is about. And I went over that, a couple of weeks ago on my show, where they want to bring people out of the shadows, right? But they're not helping when they do that, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to justify their illegal behavior, right? And pretty much put a Band-Aid on it and say, oh, just pay a fine and, you are paying taxes, this, that, and the other. Like, no, they're here illegally. If you do anything to assist these people, you slap in the face of those who've done it the right way, who've come through the proper ports of entry, who've done all the paperwork, who've paid all the fees and attorneys to get their citizenship here legally. We have a legal pathway. The reason why our country is distorted is because we actually have lawmakers that are trying to help people break the law. At the end of the day, that's it. That's it. We have people that are legislators that are trying to help people break the law. And there's no way around it. It's cut and dry. And Bye says young children don't know, but older children, DACA ages, must realize their parents are here illegally 20 years plus is loco. And it is. It is crazy, right? And I know people were like, well, what happens to the DACA people? Well, DACA was already deemed illegal because it's an executive order that Obama put in place and you can't do that. And so what Obama's, I don't want to say what his hope was, but let's just say, I'll just use those words. What the intent. Yes, I'll go with that. The intent was for that executive order to further be, I won't say argued in Congress, but debated in Congress, and they update the immigration laws to include DACA recipients. Well, it never happened. And when DACA was challenged, the Supreme Court said it was illegal. It's illegal for them to be here under that executive order. So they should have been deported. Now well over 10 years ago, they should have been deported, period. And that's going to happen. So I just want all the DACA people to know, you better figure it out because you are here illegally. That executive order has already been deemed illegal. It doesn't cover you. You can keep shouting DACA all you want to. Okay? The House of Representatives and the Senate have not made any changes in our immigration laws when it comes to DACA because if they can't, because it's illegal. That whole acronym circumvented the illegal immigration system because your parents came here illegally, they brought you here illegally, and everybody should have been deported, and it didn't happen. You need to respect the country. And Bye says, null and void that order. Absolutely null and void it. Now, even, Donald Trump in his first administration, when he was, during his first 4 years, when he was 45, he actually did talk to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer specifically about DACA. And they basically were like, because they didn't want him to have a win or do anything about it, they walked away from it. They walked away. So they're not trying to help anybody be here legally. They're not trying to follow the law because they know they couldn't do it either. They know they would have to tell those people who probably were some of their constituents, yeah, you're going to have to self-deport because your parents broke the law coming here. And even though you were brought over here at 2 and you weren't born here, you're a citizen under whatever jurisdiction your parents are under, and everybody needs to go. But right now, because it's been so long, it's been close to almost, 10, 15 years since that was done or more. Let's say 2025, 2008. Yeah. Well over 15 years. Yeah. So now everybody's built a life, have houses, pay taxes. It doesn't matter. You're still here illegally. You can't even apply for immigration status or citizenship because you came over here illegally. It was done wrong in the first place. Now, a lot of people may say, well, what are we going to do? Deport. You need to self-deport. You need to go whatever country that your parents were from. Well, I'm only used to being here. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Get out. Because you didn't do it the right way. You cannot start off the wrong way and think this is going to go okay. It's not going to go okay. It's not. We are a nation of laws or we are not. Yeah, I need every DACA recipient to self-deport now. Because I'm definitely going to be encouraging ICE to make sure every single DACA recipient is removed from this country. Period. It's illegal. You're here illegally. You need to self-deport. Period.
get away with crime long enough, they feel entitled to it. And that's what the progressive open borders crowd has allowed to happen in many of these sanctuary cities.
What's up, guys? Can I see your ID, please?
23-year-old Elzon Lemus, an electrician, was in his
Watch how
work
polite the
van with a
officers are.
coworker when they were pulled over by ICE agents in Westbury.
Because you look like somebody local.
What's that for? Looking for?
Lemus asks why they need his ID.
All right, this is going to go one of two ways here. Okay. I need to see your ID. If you're not the guy I'm looking for, you're not the guy I'm looking for.
What's wrong with this?
But we need your ID.
Nah.
Okay, if you don't get your ID, then we're gonna, have to figure out another way to ID you, and it may not work out well for you.
Nah. Listen, I'm not rolling up.
Oh, should have given him your ID.
The agent forces the door open and demands Lemus stops recording.
Right, because he's about to put him under arrest. He's not demanding that he stop recording because there's some cover-up going on here. The person is being detained, and when you're being detained, it's probably best if you put your personal belongings in a safe place. And the crazy thing about this is no law-abiding person who's not either part of the progressive resistance movement or isn't some sort of federal fugitive, they would just turn over their ID and go about their day and go to their electrician job that they're probably being paid pretty well to be at. But nope. Not here. This person in the car and his friend, they would rather try and make TikTok videos. You can see them holding their phone as well. And part of me wonders if any of this would have gone down the way we just saw if this individual were in the car by himself without his buddy egging him on.
Yeah, and before we get to the rest of the story, I definitely wanted to send some shouts out. Sean, AI filmmaker, thank you so much for reposting the stream. And Bye Bye also says, get out. And you're only going home, geez. Think of it as an unplanned family reunion of sorts. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because here's the deal. If any of us were in any other country and we overstayed our visa, we'd be in prison. Okay, you cannot overstay your visa a day in another country. They will immediately deport you. I know, I want to say it was, because this is August. So my early July, they were doing protests in Mexico saying gringos get out and all this other stuff. And there were people that were there legally. Okay, they weren't there illegally. They were there legally bought houses, legally started businesses, legally started, interacting with the locals there, having signs that say you need to speak Spanish, not English. What? Oh, yeah. See, when it's everybody else's country, they're not going to bow the knee to you. Please. You better speak the language. You better learn how to get around, especially if you want to live there. It's different when you visit, because when you're a tourist, they treat you nice. They're like, and because they know you're going to go home. But when you live there, there's a higher expectation. You got to speak the language. You got to know how to get around. You better pay your taxes. You better do everything that they're telling you to do. But they were telling them to get out of Mexico because it was messing with their economy. It was making it so where people couldn't live anymore because they started bringing so much American dollars in. It started increasing the cost of living for locals. So they were like, oh no, these Americans, they got to get up out of here. Y'all got to go, even though they were there legally, not illegally. That's the difference. And it's happening everywhere. So let me get through this video because the next video is going to kind of trip y'all out, but let's get through this one.
Now we had to get arrested.
New York and was stunned.
I felt like my rights were just out the window.
Oh my goodness.
It felt like I didn't have anything,
You're getting arrested.
Much now.
Lemus was taken out of the car, handcuffed for about 25 minutes while the ICE agents searched him. When they found his ID, they let him go.
Oh my goodness. All he had to do was hand it to him. The second they got his ID, they let him go because he wouldn't give it to him. And look, notice something else right here. What is the officer doing? He's got his phone right here. He's looking at his phone. This is a targeted enforcement operation. They are looking for a fugitive. There's a picture of the fugitive on that phone, and this officer politely wants to make sure the person in the car is not the person here. That's it.
While the ICE agents searched him, when they found his ID, they let him go.
They just left pretty upset because they couldn't take us,
I don't know if that's why they left.
Fine.
This happening at a
I
time
wouldn't
when
believe
ICE
a word
enforcement
these
operations have been
activists who
heightened
hate
across
police
the
say.
country.
They can't randomly, on a hunch, stop.
And they didn't.
That's contrary to the Constitution.
And they didn't. They had a picture of who they were looking for.
Says this case is an example of profiling.
No, it's not.
Unless there is an articulable basis upon which there is a reason to ask someone for their identification,
which there was.
This officer did not provide upon a request.
This is such a lie. This civil rights attorney, God bless him, but he's got to get his glasses checked. He's saying that there's no reason to stop this guy, no reason to ask for his ID. I mean, the reason's right here. Targeted enforcement operation, which was just.
Now I'm going to stop that right there. Do you think that it's interesting that they've used a black attorney? Okay. For those out there listening, I know we have a very diverse audience. I just want to let you know that some of the Black Americans that I know, they do not support illegal immigration at any level, period. And this attorney, you need to actually go to DHS's website because they've already said they're investigating everybody. It doesn't matter. Look, I could get stopped if they think I look like someone that they're looking for. Now I need to comply, give my driver's license and say, hey, what are we doing? And if I'm not the person they're looking for, I'm going to be let go because they're checking, license plates. They're looking for certain people that are hiding. Now, let's just say for this young man, I'm glad he matched his driver's license. But what if somebody else is using his identity, right? And he might get caught up. It's stuff like this that people need to be more concerned about, and they're just not. And Bye says the Mexican government took money from foreigners, unlike America, who pays out money. Exactly. The whole system is crazy. But what's happening here, like I said, I just wanted to point out, for him having a black attorney is just very interesting to me. Very interesting.
Disclosed to the person before their ID was even asked for. It's crazy how these people will get on the news and just lie about everything. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people are filming 2 people tell a one-sided fictitious version of events that never actually happened. That's what's going on right here. Look at all these cameras and understand there is a full court press to try and turn everybody in this country against the idea of making America safe by getting criminals out of it.
Yeah, and I want to read another comment by Bye. She says, taxes, of course, it would have been just comply if it was us, right? Yeah. I think that means us, small business women, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It'd have been move along, nothing to see here if it was us. But when we call other people to be law-abiding, it seems to be an issue and a problem.
Video is intense. Federal agents smashing a car window while trying to detain the man who was inside.
He should have opened the door.
The couple refused to get out of the car, and that's when those agents moved in.
That'll do it.
Now that man is being held out of state. And as WBZ's Logan Hall found out, his attorneys say that he is not the man that the agents were looking for.
So what you have here is an example of outrage over what is called a collateral arrest. This is what happens when ICE goes somewhere and they're looking for somebody who's a very dangerous fugitive. And while they're looking for that fugitive, they encounter other fugitives who are also here breaking our laws, and they have to arrest those people. And probably the worst thing about this last arrest is the entire arrest video that the people in the car filmed is 6 minutes long. Agents didn't just show up and bust down their car. They pleaded with them to get out of the vehicle. They did everything they could to take them into custody peacefully. But the thing is, these folks, they don't want to go peacefully. If they wanted to go peacefully, they would go get the $1,000 from the Trump administration and self-deport and then apply to come back into America legally. These people, they've broken our laws. They don't want to obey our law enforcement. And to me, if somebody like that is captured by law enforcement, the country is better off. What do you think? See you in the next video.
Yes, and shout out to Cash Jordan. He has some really good content. That's why I like his content. And Bye Bye says taxes, of course, it would have been just by US. Whoops. Seems like I had another comment. Sorry, you guys. Sometimes my comments will jump and they will go back and forth. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was reading all of the comments because I do appreciate the interaction. So thank you so much. Now, this next video I want to play. This one is actually from overseas.
Not business as usual. Just this weekend, we've seen protests up and down the country, some of them absolutely enormous. And to me, it's beautiful. It's beautiful because it's the English people finally recognizing themselves, seeing themselves for who they are, looking left and right, shoulder to shoulder, and seeing that they're not alone. And I think that's really, really powerful. Anyway, you came here to take a look at some protests. So we'll start with one in Manchester, where Paul Golding put on a march for remigration.
Okay, so
to me, that is spectacular, and I just love to see so many English flags in the crowd. Now, I mentioned earlier that this was a march for remigration, and some of you may have never heard of this concept before. Maybe you've been living under a rock. But the idea is pretty simple. You want more people to leave the country than are entering it. We didn't consent to mass immigration, and now we want to see that reversed. We're not happy for mass immigration to just stop, which it still hasn't. We want it to be reversed. Okay, that's the broad concept. I also mentioned that this was set up by Paul Golding on behalf of Britain First. And in the past, I've said that I don't really see Britain First as a political party, even though technically they are. And I think I stand by that statement. I said in a previous video that I see them more as a street protest movement, and I think that's still true, right? Maybe in the future that will change and I will change my opinion about that. But look, that is one hell of a street protest that they've put on. In fact, let's take a look at another angle of it. But it wasn't just Manchester. Yesterday in Islington, outside the Barbican Thistle Hotel, there was a protest. Why? Well, because 41 of the migrants staying in that hotel have been charged with 90 criminal offences. And unsurprisingly, the locals aren't too happy about it.
Okay, and I'm gonna pause it really quick. Now, a lot of these people out here, they're protesting, right? Do you see them with masks on? Now they're protesting against the illegal immigration and the mass immigration that they've had, right? They're like, we want these people out of here because see what's happening here in the US and what we've went through for the past 4 years where they just basically broke down the border and just walked in. Other countries overseas have been experiencing this 15 years plus. See, they did it over there first to kind of figure out how to do it and pretty much overwhelm the system and burden the people and just knock them down. Well, as you can see, people in Europe, they're not putting up with this. But like I said, this first round of people that you see that are protesting, they don't have masks on and they're against this illegal immigration. Like, how are you putting somebody up in a hotel that committed crimes? But yet their local government is protecting the illegal criminals. I've said it. And it even happens here in the US. We've got legislatures protecting illegal activity. And these are the people that we need to actually have brought up on charges, removed from office, and put in prison, period. They've broken the law and they need to go to jail. That's just where we're at. There's no more excuses. It just needs to happen. It said, stop the boats, deport foreign criminals.
Unfortunately, they weren't actually able to protest where they were meant to because a horde of masked up Antifa guys showed up and blocked the route.
Okay. Now, these are all the people that want all these criminals here. Why do they have masks on? Why are you covering your face? Why aren't you proud of this? If you were proud of this, you wouldn't have a mask on. But it's because these people are paid to be there. Paying for this. It's crazy. And Sassy Lady says, great morning, Dr. Nichols. Great morning to you too. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning, Sassy Lady, and always, bringing the love and the sunshine. I appreciate you. Yeah. So, why do you have to be in mask, Antifa? Why aren't you proud? You're protecting legal activity. Why aren't you proud? Why don't you show your face? Show your face. Because you're not proud of what you're doing. And most of you, again, like I said, they're more than likely paid to be there. They're paid actors. So they can't show their face, right? Because they can't continue to be paid and protest everywhere, because then everybody will be like, hey, you're paid protesters. I saw you at another event. But that's all coming out too. I might have to, squeeze in a video on Tell It All Tuesday. But a lot of these people are paid to be there. And it's really, really sad.
Weirdly, they seem to be shouting some non-English phrase that I just can't understand. Anyway, they were later seen waving and cheering at the migrants in the hotel who were filming them back using their iPhones. Yeah, iPhones that we paid for.
And Bye says, good point. Yeah. Like I said, a lot of these people, they're paid. And can you believe the chutzpah of some of these individuals out the window with the phones? Like, hey, look, you didn't pay for that phone. To this gentleman's point, the tax dollars, the taxpayers paid for that phone. The taxpayers are paying for the dwelling. Now, I don't know if they suffer with a lot of homelessness in their areas, but how are you going to leave the residents and citizens, I should say citizens of that country on the street, and you're going to put illegal people in hotels? And we're doing it here as well in the United States. But like I said, I just wanted to show this video to let you guys know it's not just happening here. It's happening everywhere. This is systemic. It's on purpose.
There's some good news though, because for a brief moment, the police did some policing. I'm pretty sure they even made some arrests whilst they were there.
Can you move back, please?
This is now happening up and down the country every day. Local communities have just had enough. But I guarantee that the government has no idea why this is happening. They're just scratching their heads, wondering, why are people so upset? Well, if you step away from your worldview for just 1 minute and look at how perverse the governance in this country has been for the last 50 years, look at how people have voted, how many times they've told you they want lower migration, only for you to betray them every single time. Okay, so that's why this is happening. People have had enough. But of course, people in the civil service, people in the government, they just can't see this. They just don't seem to understand it. And so they press on. In fact, 2 days ago at the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf at 1:30 in the morning, under the cover of darkness, very sneaky, they bust a load of migrants in, hoping, of course, that nobody would see it. But someone did see it.
The time is 1:33, the 1st of August.
Okay, so this was just this past Friday, you guys. These are grown men, military age. Why? And why is it the dead of night? Yeah, it is definitely nefarious what is happening overseas. Like I said, and it's happening here too. We're not the only ones, but we may not have the footage of this happening, because this happened, like he said, in the dead of night, 1:30 in the morning. Why are you sneaking people in? Why can't you do it at 10 a.m.? Really? Okay.
And guess what? Just one day later, they were already trying to leave the hotel on their delivery bikes to work illegally. Fortunately, a couple of patriots stopped them.
I mean, tell me this. Look at this, guys. Look at this, guys. Look at this, guys. Yeah, tell me these ain't delivery drivers. Tell me these ain't delivery drivers, guys.
They shut that down. They're
Oh,
like,
shit.
nope.
There we go.
Yeah. And Bye says grown men. Yeah, look, one of them looked like he was well over 6 feet tall. I was like, okay, you know, you look like you could play basketball somewhere. You know what I mean? But all grown men, all men. So, you know, when they try to have these bleeding hearts, like, oh, we need to help these people. No, you are trying to create a ground military. You are trying to create that discourse, right? And you're using these migrants in she says a big one. Yes, he's big, but they're all grown men. You are creating an army, like I said. And so the legislatures that are there, they're just going to kind of let people fight it out like the Hunger Games. Right? It's like, okay, well, if the citizens want to take their country back, you know, they're going to have to put better people in office, right? Okay. No, that's one. But we're going to keep pressing the issue so it'll no longer be the finger pointed at us. They'll just be angry with each other. But I don't think their legislatures are very intelligent over there, overseas, or here. Because, see, we see what you're doing, and we're tired of it. And the people are turning on the legislatures because we know what you've done. And you are going to have to pay the consequences for this. That check's coming due. And I don't really think you have enough in your bank account. You just don't. You wrote a check that can't be cashed. It can't be. You're losing all of your political currency, period. You're done. You guys are bankrupt that have signed on to this because you really think that people are just going to bow down to evil. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work.
Georgina, I'm modding you.
They shut that down. They were like, nope.
Georgina, message something quickly so I can see your name again.
It won't surprise you then to know that there are fresh protests outside that hotel today.
Again, those people don't have masks on. Nobody's masked up, y'all. They out there fighting for freedom, okay?
Look, I think you get the picture. This is happening all over the country, and it's just going to grow and grow and grow. People are angry, and quite frankly, it's not that surprising. The government has placed people into these communities, in these hotels, despite having access to the statistics which show them that it will put those communities in danger. And yet they did it anyway. Remember, the first duty of government is to protect its citizens. These people that they're putting in hotels, not citizens. The people that they're endangering, citizens. So our government has failed in its basic first duty. There's no other way of putting it. There's no other way around it. That's it. And as Douglas Carswell says, they're going to realize at some point that they cannot contain this for much longer. Anyway, that's just a short video covering these protests. And I felt like I really had to do it because while some of you will see this on social media and you'll be more clued up about what's going on up and down the country, you know, the BBC aren't going to talk about this. Sky News aren't going to talk about this unless it turns violent, and then they'll just make it all about far-right protests and riots. Okay, that's all they'll discuss. The peaceful protests, they won't make it to the mainstream media's attention. So that's why we do it here. There's one other thing I want to say. I refer to myself as English a lot, not British, which is ironic, I know, because my name is British Lander. And I don't want people who are Welsh or Scottish or Ulsterman to take some kind of offence from that. It's just that I'm starting to reject the idea of British. Not that I reject the Welsh, the Scottish and the Northern Irish, far from it. But British nowadays just seems to mean anybody in the world who is, waiting for a passport, right? It's just ridiculous. We've got British Indians, British Pakistanis, British Nigerians, British everything. But the one thing that cannot be taken away from me, that is entirely unique, that cannot be granted with a passport, is my Englishness. You're either English or you're not. So Rishi Sunak.
Now, for those of you that, are on X, do you find that fascinating? That he's delineating. He's not using the word delineation, but that's what he's doing. Right. My wife said delineation. Look. He was like, you can be British anything. You just can't be English. Can't be me. Look, I appreciate his heart. Sir, 10 toes down. Yes, you are English. And be who you are and be proud of that. And don't come back from it with your whole chest. You're an Englishman. And that isn't something that people should take offense to. And I'm going to play the rest of the video out, but I had to stop it right there to go, yeah, he is talking about delineation, but he's just not saying it.
I don't hate Rishi Sunak, okay? I don't think he was a great prime minister, but let's be honest, he was passed a bit of a hospital pass by Boris Johnson. But Rishi Sunak, he's not English. He's an anglicised Indian. He's a British Indian, but he's not English, okay? I am English, and that can't be taken away from me. So if someone comes to me and says, I see myself as Scottish, not British, really, I'm completely okay with that. I don't take any offence from that. But the other thing I'll say is the English identity, more than Welsh or Scottish or Northern Irish, has been stripped away from us and dumbed down in a way that I don't think the other parts of the kingdom really understand. We've been told that our flag is inherently bad and racist and we should be ashamed of it and things like that. And it's just ridiculous. I am starting to see some good things coming out of the country. Apparently one English guy in Birmingham was told to take down his St. George's flag, his English flag, and then he bought 100 more and plastered them all over the city. So I love that. And apparently people are painting roundabouts with the English flag. It's great.
Okay. What? And Tatas, thank you for reposting the stream. And Black Empowered, thank you for reposting the stream. And Bye Bye says, OMG, I love it. Yeah. Because he's saying the same thing that we're saying here. Like, don't get offended. Do not get offended. We're Negroes. We are foundational Black Americans. We are Black Americans, but we are not Africans. Okay? We are not people of color. You're going to stop that. We're not a minority. We're not. We're not. We are a very unique ethnic group here on the American soil. And you're not going to take it away from us, and you're not going to dilute us with all of these immigrants that need to go home. All of them. Like, I'm good with it. I'm good with it. Could we deal with 70 million people being removed from the country that shouldn't be here? We'll survive. We will be just fine. Get out. We can rebuild. Like the $6 million man, stronger, better, faster. Get off the soil. Go back to your own home country and build that up. How about that? You've gotten enough education over here. Leave. Go back home. Because I'm tired of people being here complaining about the Americans and complaining about our group specifically that they rode the backs of. But you won't go to your own home country and build it up. Get out. See, you messed up when you started disrespecting us and treating us as a substandard class. And I think that's what this young man sees. And that is why he is pointing it out. Like he was saying, there's a person in the political arena that's a British Indian. He was like, that person isn't English. That person can't even fly my flag because they're not me. They're not my ethnicity. And like I said, I respect it.
I really, really love to see that. So when I refer to myself as English, I'm not doing that to offend the Scottish or the Welsh or the Northern Irish. It's just that I am English, okay? I'm very, very proud of that, and nobody can take that away from me or misuse the term, although they will try sometimes, but nobody can remove that quality from me in the same way they can't take away your actual Scottishness or your Welshness or your Northern Irishness, your Ulstermanness, okay? I just want to make that clear. I don't want to offend anybody. Please do leave a like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll try and reply to quite a lot of comments. Yesterday I had a bit of a family emergency, not going to talk about it. I'm totally fine. In fact, everyone's totally fine in the end, but I had to go to the hospital right as I was replying to comments. So I didn't manage to reply to as many as I usually do. So I'm sorry about that, but I'll make an effort to make.
And that is British launder. And that's why he was kind of laughing. He was like, I know I say British launder, but I'm an Englishman. British launder, that's just his tag and handle, right? Because he does handle a lot of news from the UK, primarily in Britain. So I understand why he would use that handle. But again, like I said, I found it fascinating the way even though he didn't say delineation, he was delineating himself ethnically, right? I am an Englishman. I'm not from Welsh. I'm not, from Northern Ireland. And he was like, no offense to you guys, but this is who I am. And standing 10 toes down respectfully, as he should, because he's not hating on anybody else. He's just saying, this is who I am, as he should. And thank you so much for reposting the stream. And Patty Cakes, thank you for reposting the stream. Thank you so much for everybody that's here. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I got one more video to get into. But before we get into that video, I definitely want to revisit replacement migration that was put in by the United Nations, so we can just really see a lot of what's been happening in America and Britain with immigration. So with that, we'll take a quick break, and I will see you guys on the other side.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads, trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles, and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bytes can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times, with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments. So it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question: do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. And my name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And so what you are looking at right now is a document from the United Nations. And this document was actually written in the year 2000, so about roughly 25 years ago. And it discusses replacement migration. Okay. A lot of people talk about it and some people say it in passing and they're like, what do you mean replacement migration? Like, why? Because the United Nations were like, well, there's going to be, parts of the population dying off and we need to repopulate these places with different demographics from different parts of the world so we can replace those populations that are declining. The problem with replacement migration, it doesn't talk about any assimilation. It doesn't talk about any respect for the rule of law for the countries that these individuals are migrating to. They're just sending them. No vetting, okay? And no teaching like, this is our country that you're coming into. These are our laws that you need to respect. And if you don't, you're going to get deported. None of that. They just drop people off. And then they're wondering, like, why isn't anything working? But see, that was the point, right? The point is to create the Hunger Games, in my opinion. The point isn't for a peaceful cohesiveness around the world. They want us to destroy one another. So it just gave some scenarios. So I'll just read the scenario here. The scenario computes and assumes the migration required to maintain the size of working age population, 15 to 64 years at the highest level. It would reach in the absence of migration after 1995. So they were talking about this stuff in the mid 90s. Scenario 5, this scenario computes and assumes the migration required to maintain the potential support ratio, PSR, i.e., the ratio of the working age population, 15 to 64, to the old age population, 65 years or older. At the highest level, it would reach in the absence of migration after 1995. Now, we did see that video where the gentleman, 1:30 in the morning, those were grown men. They fell in that 15 to 64 years old category. And a lot of those men, they looked like they were well into their, like, I would say mid 20s, maybe, 24, 25 up. They were not children. They were grown military age men. So the total and average annual numbers of migrants for the period of 2000 to 2050 for each scenario are represented in Table 1, which is the table I'm going to show you guys below. Scenario 1 shows the number of migrants assumed for the 8 countries and 2 regions in the medium variant of the United Nations projections. For example, the total number of migrants for the United States for the 50-year period is 38 million. So they had planned on 38 million people being sent here. Okay, they just did it. Where was Congress? Where are our legislatures to protect us? Donald Trump right now, he's in office and he's like, we're not doing any of this. But what I don't know what he realizes is this plan was already in place before he even got in the seat. And he is doing everything he can do to shut this down. That's why they're crying and whining, y'all. That's why they're out there in the streets hiring people to protest, because nobody is truly against this. And I guarantee you, even if you interviewed some of those people that were getting paid to protest, for these illegal immigrants, they'd be like, look, I'm just trying to make $1. I'm just trying to get paid. I don't agree with any of this. I guarantee you there are some people doing this that don't even agree with it. So Bobby said grown and musty, as my mom would say. Look, and yes, 38 million. That was their projection then. And it says, and the average annual number is 760,000. So that means on average, they were anticipating annually, right, that at least 760,000 people per year would be migrating. And this is just the United States. We're not talking about the other countries. So scenario 2 assumes zero migration for the entire period. The resulting populations and age structures are given in the text of this report. So this table is just pretty much a visual of what they put into words, right? And so we can just look at the United States here. Okay. So 38,000, it was a medium variant. And so this is like zero migration, like nothing happens. But they said a constant total population of 6,000, a constant group of 15 to 64 years old, 17,967,000. And then the constant ratio would end up being a little over 500,000, right, annually. And this would be from 2020 to 2050. That's why their projected numbers were 38 million. So this is not organic. I'll say it that way. This is not organic. This is on purpose. We have a government. So in 1995, that was Clinton. It was. That was Clinton. When, he got in office. And so, hey, and AB 2000, he's sending the fist up, and he says men fleeing their country due to violence take their families with them. No wives, no children, war. Exactly. Yeah. And you're talking about the Hunger Games. Yeah. Because they weren't in families. What are these grown men doing here? And you see how those European men, they shut that down. They were trying to ride the scooters. They were like, you ain't going nowhere. They were like, nope, not today. And you see them other little weaklings behind the gate. They didn't challenge those men. Those some tall Englishmen too. I was like, okay, y'all look like linebackers. I wouldn't mess with you either. Yeah. But these numbers here, I need people to realize that these are not in the hundreds. These are in the 100,000s. Okay. So with this 760 is 760,000. All right. This is their average. So this number is closer to 11 million. Yeah. Like they don't care. Like they really don't care. Like they have the million number up here, but they don't have it down here. Yeah. And Europe is suffering. Europe has been suffering for a long, long time. And nobody talks about it because people just assume that nobody's going to mess with the people over in Britain. You do realize their Muslim population is so large that they have a Muslim mayor. They have people on their council that are Muslim. And people need to realize that Muslim is not an ethnicity. It is a religious name. It's like being a Christian, you're a Muslim. That's what it is. So now, they are under a theocracy. Nobody's really talking about it from that respect. They keep saying, well, this legal immigration, and it's a theocracy. They have taken over Britain. Yeah. The Muslims have taken over Britain with their theocracy. Okay. With their religious ideology. And they have pushed out people native born to England. And they're not even from the soil. So I can understand why people from, Britain that are English and Wales and all those different places that gentleman was talking about, I can understand why they're angry and upset. Because you've got foreigners running parts of their country. Just like we have it here. And that is one thing that needs to be changed. I think with everything that's going on, because I know we're fighting for reparations, that is one of the things that we need to start pressing our congressional members to put forth. That at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level, if you are not native born, if you cannot trace your lineage to the 1700s in this country, you can't run for office. Now, I know a lot of people will be like, oh my gosh, then who's going to run? People that are natively that have a lineage here. Lineage-based Americans. If you are not a lineage-based American, I don't know if I'm coining the phrase, somebody else might have coined it. If you are not a lineage-based American, you cannot run for office because, see, you do not have the same principled, law-abiding stance that we have here. You're bringing your degeneracy here because you're not vetted. If you are coming and you're just crossing the border illegally, you're bringing your degeneracy here. I'm going to call it. You're degenerate and you're bringing lawlessness here. You are not bringing anything good to this country. And people say, well, I'm a refugee, I'm an asylum seeker. Guess what? If you're a refugee, it is noted by the federal government that you're a refugee. If you're an asylum seeker, it is noted by the federal government. The mistake was with the Somalis. That was a mistake that they gave them refugee status because they have done nothing but been degenerate since they got here, doing nothing but all kind of scams and criminal activity since they hit the soil. They all need to be deported, and none of them should ever be allowed in any public office. Oh, it can be overturned. Guarantee it. We can shut all that down. But is Congress going to do it? Are we going to get people in Congress to do this? We need somebody with the stones to do it because all they're focused on is like, hey, it's a numbers game. We just need people that'll back us. But Democratic Party, this is why you're failing. This is why you were losing. Because you're more concerned about the numbers than concerned about your constituents and how to enrich and better their lives. That's why you're losing. That's why you're failing. And it'll continue to fail. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It will continue to fail. Because all you want to do is participate in illegal activity. And Bye says, America tells you if you're a refugee, not the other way around. Exactly. You don't tell us. I'm a refugee. So? What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Refugee from where and how? But this is why a lot of people are getting deported because they lied and said that they were asylum seekers and said that they were refugees. And when they go to their, hearing and the judge says, you're not a refugee. And they, basically say, give them their deportation orders. ICE is right outside. That's why you see a lot of those arrests happening in those courtroom videos. If anybody's come across any on YouTube, that's why you see that. Because they shouldn't be here in the first place. They shouldn't be here. Like, what? Okay. So let's get into this last video now. This one, when I came across this one, I was like, what? Yeah, this one is definitely going to. Oh, and AB, he says all day in 100. Yeah, it is. It's really crazy. But yeah, let's get into this last video.
Texas Democrats are leaving the state in an attempt to prevent the State House from holding a vote tomorrow on new congressional maps.
A few moments later.
And we're back, y'all. Thank you for watching today. Go ahead and hit that like button, my people. You know that it helps us out a ton. And of course, it helps you because it helps us keep bringing you these stories twice a day, every day. Now, y'all, I told you a few days ago that this whole redistricting thing in Texas was heating up, was going to get crazy, wild. And it has, y'all. As of now, the Democrats, the Texas Democrats, have officially fled the state. Again, they have left the state in an attempt to prevent or at least delay the redistricting, which would see the Democrats lose up to 5 seats in the United States House of Representatives. That could be a very serious blow against the Democrats' attempts to retake the House of Representatives in 2026 next year. So they left, y'all. I mean, you could say they tucked tail and ran away. You could call it strategic, however you want to get into it. But in this report, we're going to show you exactly what we're going to show exactly why they ran away. We're going to show you're going to see them on the plane, as you saw in the coming up. You're going to see them running. And by the way, y'all, I noticed in this video I said have fleed instead of have fled. I don't feel like re-recording it, so y'all work with your boy, okay? So let's go ahead and get right into it. But before we do, y'all, make sure you take care of your money. I'm not gonna make this a long one, y'all. Go to Para Investing, at least some of it in gold.
Widely considered the best option for the state minority party, even though participants would face a daily $500 fine. Today, Texas State Rep Gina Hinoso hinted that the act of resistance may be worth it, even in the end.
We broke quorum in 2021 to try to get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed, which you referred to earlier in the program. And so in Texas, we fight to win. And I think if you watch, you'll see the same.
Joining us now, Democratic Texas State Representative Christian Manuel. Representative Manuel, will we seek Democrats break quorum and leave the state in order to avoid a vote on redistricting? Do you think lawmakers, yourself included, are prepared to face this $500 per day fine and potentially threats of arrest?
Absolutely. Nothing is off the table for us right now. We know that we are in extreme situations where Republicans are trying to force our hand by doing any and everything. So we are looking to do everything that we possibly can. Nothing is off the table. We are trying to do everything to work with them to make them do the right thing. But if they refuse to and are not going to be there, nothing is off the table. And I'll tell you, my constituents, that is what they expect. This is what I was elected for, and that is what I have overwhelmingly gotten from my office, from my constituency. And if that is what we end up having to do, so be it. I hope we don't have to get there, but if we get there, then we will get there.
So you think there's support for this? Because it seems like, initially the optics of it could look like you're not resisting, but leaving the state in and of itself is really kind of the only option you've got left. I'm wondering if you and your colleagues decide to go ahead and do this, do you know how long you'd have to stay away? Days, weeks? And as those fines accrue, can everybody pay them? How are you going to pay them?
We're looking at this wholly to look at every option. And I think, honestly, it's not about the money for us. Granted, we don't make money off of this. I make $650 a month, $600 a month, excuse me, from being a state representative. It's not about the money for us. It's about democracy.
So word has come down that the Democrats have fled to Chicago.
Okay, I have to pause it right there. He says not about money, it's about democracy. We live in a republic. And so whenever I hear that word democracy, I hear socialism. I don't know about you guys out there, but that's what I hear. I hear socialism. I hear communism. I do not hear that you are doing this for the American people. When I say y'all lost, y'all lost. You're failing in the state of Texas. That's why this redistricting is happening the way it is. And Bye says, America tells you if you're a refugee. Oh, yeah, not the other way around. Sorry, I already read that. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss any quotes from anybody. And thank you guys for just, sending your quotes, letting me know what your thoughts and feelings are on this right now. So definitely let me know how you're feeling. They've fled from Texas to Chicago. They're being fined $500 a day, not a month. Now, this gentleman, he's like, oh, we're not worried about the money. You're not worried about the money. Your fundraising is down. You're going to be fined $500 a day, not a month. And you only make $650 a month being a representative. The math is not mathing, sir. How are you not worried about this? Unless you know something we don't. I'm just saying.
You watch this channel, we cover Chicago. That's where your boy the illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson. That's his home. That's where he holds sway with about 6% of the voters. So it looks like the Texas Democrats have fled to Chicago. Now, this is a video purportedly of the airplane that they boarded, y'all. They ran away.
And this just in, Texas Democrats are leaving the state in an attempt to prevent the State House from holding a vote tomorrow on new congressional maps. Republicans hope those redrawn maps will net them several additional U.S. House seats in next year's midterm elections. The rare mid-decade redrawing of the congressional map would affect major metropolitan areas, including Houston and Dallas.
So I'd like to know what y'all think about this. Do you think, I mean, listen, if you are a Republican or if you're on Trump's side, you probably knee-jerk reaction, you probably say this is cowardly. You probably say this is wrong. But really think about it. Like, take a moment, think about it. If you're in a political minority, if you think the other side's doing something wrong, okay, do you think that this type of tactic is within the realm of acceptability? Like, is this acceptable? Try to think about it if it were the Republicans doing the same thing, and if you were against the redistricting, would you say, yeah, go get as far away as possible, delay, deny, just muck it all up? I'd like to know what you think about this. So let me know down in the comments, and we're going to shoot right into our report that gives you more context, and you're going to see your girl, Jasmine Crockett, talking about all this. By the way, they say that her district is going to be redrawn such that her actual residence is going to be outside of the district that she won last time. So this is really wild stuff. Let's get into it.
Numbers, President Trump did win the majority of the Hispanic votes in the state. In fact, he flipped, I believe it was 10 counties in the state. So don't you think that is reflective of this map, this proposed map, that the minorities who are here with the new minority districts that have been created, it is reflective?
No, Representative, I don't. Again, okay. It's just based upon, this is just pure math. Like, I'm not trying to pick who is going to vote for who, because as it was stated earlier, the idea that anybody is a monolith is wild anyway, right? Because first of all, Latinos down at the border, they are not the same as Latinos, say, in the DFW or in Harris County. So I don't want to pretend as if any minority group is a monolith, which is one of the reasons that we talk about communities of common interest, because we work together and we function together and we do things a little differently. I'm sure there are even black folk in Houston that will argue that they're not the same as Dallas black people, right? So it's an ongoing thing. But nevertheless, what I will say is that is why you shouldn't just be grabbing up people from wherever and saying, oh, well, they all the same race. It is bigger than that. It is trying to make sure, and you brought up compactness earlier. And so compactness is one of those things that you consider as well, because again, it is different. When you look at a state the size of Texas, you know how many states you can fit in our state, right? So thinking about it in that way, a reflective map would look like the fact that only 39% of this state is Anglo. So how in the heck do we have 60% of the seats that go to DC are going to be decided by Anglos? That's the math that doesn't work. We need to flip the numbers so that people of color, no matter who they vote for, if they decide they're voting for Trump, and you're right, because of the 13 democratically elected seats in the state of Texas, one of those seats was a majority white seat. That's it. Everybody else, it was people of color that sent us to DC. But when we look at the Republicans of the...
She always liked to throw in people of color. Just saying, she does. I wanted to stop for a quick comment. And Righteous Anger says, getting those hand mannerisms down. Yeah, she loves to talk with her hands. And I'm the same way. I do love to talk with my hands. And I have to be very careful because it can be distracting. Right? It really can be, depending on the point you're trying to get across. And AB 2000 says, Jasmine is so terrible. There she goes with the community of common interest. Yeah. See, they all try to lump it together. And it's interesting because they always want to bring in race and play the victim card. And then when it doesn't work for them, they want to throw it off and cry racism. What? This is not about racism. This is about demographics. This is about numbers. And so you brought people in illegally, by the way. And those maps are being redrawn based on the people, based on the numbers. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? But the thing about it is you lost and you don't like losing. You need to take the L and figure it out. That's just my opinion. Take the L and learn from it. But they keep going down this path and they keep trying to drag us into it. People of color, no, please don't drag Black Americans into people of color. You can let everybody else be people of color if they want to be, because a lot of times they're not lineage-based Americans that you're trying to throw in that people of color segment. They're not of the soil. Stop it.
25 seats. 23 of those seats are Anglo majority seats. 2 of those seats, Latinos are the ones that chose. And I don't have a beef with that. Like, that's who they elected, and that is perfectly fine. So they have 2 Anglo seats that are Republican. 2 Latino opportunity seats that elected Republicans. That is perfectly fine. People vote for who they vote for, but don't divide our communities and dilute our voices. And that's why we're here, because we feel like we're being diluted because we're packing Black folk, or the bill author mentioned that there's some district that went up to over 70-something% Latino. That is packing. You don't need almost 80.
No, it's not packing. That's where people live, not packing anything. Now, I find it weird. You opened up the borders, you brought people here, and now you want to complain. Okay.
Percent Latinos for that district to perform as a Latino opportunity seat.
And so you don't agree with the new minority Hispanic seats? Because
I don't agree with this map.
Okay, thank you.
So there we have a bit of a preview of the redistricting fight with your girl. You know who she is. I don't even have to say her name. And Democrats they're freaking out about this, y'all. They understand that if this goes through, if this goes down, Republicans might be able to maintain control of the House of Representatives or even increase their control in the House. And this would be really bad for the Democrats.
Believes doing so ahead of the 2026 election could help Republicans win more seats in the U.S. House of Representatives.
Just a very simple redrawing. We pick up 5 seats.
Texas Republican leaders moving forward with the first part of the process. For their part, they said it was important the first hearings take input from everyday Texans.
We want to hear from the public about what revisions should occur, if any. That's the purpose of today's hearing.
A hearing that largely featured members of the public opposed to Trump's plan.
These future maps are going to divide our communities so badly that we will no longer have a fair representation in Congress.
We would never, ever, ever let a con man from...
Now, here's the thing. When you talk about representation in Congress, your representation should come from the person you vote for, regardless of their ethnicity. They should be there championing the issues that you sent them to the House for. That's why you have representatives. It's not about your skin color. Now, if it comes down to, okay, we can only have Black people representing Black people and white people representing white people, there are some white people that represent and champion Black issues. There are Black people that represent and champion white issues. It happens. But at the end of the day, we need to be a nation of laws, period. And we can't just fall back on putting people in certain places based on their skin color. Now, I know a lot of people might say, okay, that's just weird and different. No, because we need to get back to representation being lawful, right? The Democrats have done themselves a disservice by being a champion of, illegal activity. They have been a champion of no borders. And they have been a champion of bringing people here in our country illegally and, making sure that they were not properly vetted. They have been a champion of making sure that there was gang activity brought in here. And there was massive human trafficking under the last administration. They supported all of that. That's why they're failing. They're not failing because of anybody's ethnic background in the Democratic Party. They are failing based on them not following and upholding the law for citizens. This is why people are walking away from the Democratic Party. But they're doubling down and they're tripling down. And I'm just like, let them. Now they're going to be on the hook for hundreds of thousands of dollars, thinking that running away from Texas is going to solve the problem. It's not going to solve the problem. And it's going to be a bigger mountain when you return.
New York, tell us, Texas, what to do.
The hearings come less than 1 week after California Governor Gavin Newsom met in Sacramento with Texas Democratic leaders. Newsom saying he will consider redrawing California's congressional districts to help pick up Democratic congressional seats if Texas Republicans move forward with Trump's plan.
They're not screwing around. We cannot afford to screw around either. We have got to fight fire with fire.
But Common Cause, a nonpartisan nonprofit organization dedicated to independent redistricting, is calling out both Newsom and Trump. Common Cause notes California already has an independent redistricting commission, something they call the gold standard.
Redistricting processes that are nonpartisan, transparent, and that center community input do the best job of creating voting maps that provide ordinary people with fair representation.
You can't fight gerrymandering with more gerrymandering.
Patricia Sinai is a member of California's Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission.
Independent redistricting commissions work because they put people first, not special interests or political parties. The people are in control. Handing the power to incumbent legislators, lobbyists, and special interests will bring back the political gamemanship that brought us to the independent redistricting in the first place. We can't afford to sacrifice the truly democratic process for short-term solutions. We must do what we can to preserve the California Citizen Redistricting Commission and independent redistricting throughout the state of California.
And to be clear, Newsom has not made any final decisions on this. He says that will be based on the actions of the Texas legislature. Should Newsom move forward with his plan, he can either go to his legislature or directly to the voters to change the redistricting process in California. At the state capitol, covering local news that matters, Eitan Wallace, Fox 40 News.
So in their panic, Democrats have all kinds of tactics that they're trying to use. You just saw one of the tactics that they might try to use, which is redistricting California. Who knows if that would even work? But yeah, they're freaking out about this, and they're not making any kind of bones about it. This is an existential crisis for them.
Because people across our state hate what is happening. Republicans and Democrats alike. There was a Republican that testified in Houston that he didn't want him to do it either. Texans see what's being done to them and they don't like it and they're not going to take it. So number one, we are using our voices to make sure that our constituents and people across the state, no matter who their member of Congress is, know who's fighting for them and their ability to have a say, for their vote, to be able to cast their vote and have a say in the elections. And I want to say one other really important statistic, because we've talked about it, but it's important to know that in Texas, more than 60% of the population is minority. And yet Anglo voters control 65% of the congressional seats. They get to choose the candidates that go to Congress. So we have the inverse here. So when Leader Jeffrey said the map is already unconstitutional, being challenged in court, we already think 13 isn't enough. And now what you see is
Okay, so basically because Caucasian people have the majority, y'all are mad. I'm just putting it out there. They're like, there's more minority people here and we should carry the majority. Well, you're not. And this is based on politics. At the end of the day, that's what it comes back to. But again, they want to play the racial card. They want to play the victim card. And they don't want to play the, you know what? Our party is falling apart and we've done America a disservice. And just be honest, just be real about it, because you have. You're okay with communism. You're okay with socialism. You're okay with destroying everybody else's lives when it suits you. And you've done it with impunity and we can see it. You can't hide it anymore. And April Showers, thank you so much for reposting the stream.
They're reducing it. They're reducing the voices of minority communities. But that should matter to every single Texan, no matter who you vote for. We should care about the rights of Texans to have our say and let Texans make decisions, not Donald Trump. So that's one of the most important things. And you are important in that process and making sure that you're covering it, that you're talking about it, and that people across our state know, and people across the country are watching. They're watching what we do here in Texas. So that's a very important thing. And I think everybody who's standing here and our colleagues who couldn't be physically in Austin with us today, who are using their voices, and those who are here but somewhere else on the Capitol, because Texas Democrats are standing up, speaking out, and fighting for the rights of all Texans.
No, you're not. But good try. And AB 2000 says, it's because they are referring to immigrants as white. Yeah. Because if anybody looks at those applications, and I went over this last week, actually about Texas, that and AB says like white Hispanic. Yeah. And that's what I was about to say. On a lot of applications, it'll say white Hispanic or white non-Hispanic. And in Jasmine Crockett's area specifically, even though she says, oh yeah, it's majority Black Americans, it actually isn't. It's majority Hispanic, Latino, because they have 36% that actually identify as Hispanic, right? But then there's another 11% that identify as white Hispanic. Okay. So that gives them 47%. That's more than 40%. So sometimes they don't even know their own demographics, even playing the race card. It's really, really crazy what they're doing and how they're doing it. And it's the manipulation for me at the end of the day. I don't like seeing people manipulated in this way. But let's hear from Hakeem Jeffries, y'all.
It's important for us to make clear to the people of Texas that this effort to undermine their ability for a free and fair election to occur is going to hurt their quality of life. Democrats, independents, and Republicans alike. This Texas gerrymander will hurt your quality of life, and our message to the people of Texas is you deserve better from your government, which should be focused on solving problems, not simply following orders from Donald Trump, who knows he doesn't have a track record of accomplishment that he can sell to the voters in the midterm elections.
Senator Jeffries, the question is, are you urging Texas Democrats to break form? That may be the only nuclear option that they
My response is simple. First and foremost, we have to make clear to the people of Texas what's taking place, because it's unacceptable, unconscionable, and un-American. And as elected officials, we have that responsibility. That's not something we can just brush aside. There are 50 states in America. I'm here in Texas for a reason, because these legislators are standing up. These members of Congress are standing up and communicating to the people of Texas what's occurring right now in the middle of the summer at a special session. And we will make clear that we're going to do everything possible to support the Texas legislators as they consider the best ways to push back. It's an all hands on deck moment, and all options should be on the table to protect the people of Texas. But Texas Democrats are going to be the ones to decide that. We will fight them politically. We will fight them governmentally. We will fight them in court. We will fight them in terms of winning the hearts and minds of the people of Texas and beyond. The Texas Democrats are going to show up and stand up and speak up for what's right for the people of Texas. And they're showing courage and conviction and character in doing that. And we'll see what happens over the next few days, over the next few weeks. But the one thing I know is clear, that Texas Democrats are fighting for the people. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. We're finished here. Thank you very much.
So states, they have the right to draw their districts as they see fit. And you're going to hear a lot about this coming up, about Texas and maybe other states redistricting in an attempt to gain an advantage in the House of Representatives. See, the Senate doesn't really have that problem because each state has 2 senators regardless of districts. The House of Representatives absolutely has a redistricting issue in that if you change the way the districts are drawn, you can include people from over here with people from over there. You can include more people from a particular demographic or political party, and you can really change the makeup of the House of Representatives. So let me know down in the comments, do you agree with this or don't you? I mean, I think this is a good question. We already know that the states have the right to redistrict. Do you think that the use of it in this way is cool? Is it copacetic or no? Let me know down in the comments. But before you do, please stop, hit the share button, share this video out.
Yeah. When it comes to that, and this is just me, I honestly think it should be just done in blocks. Like if you just were, in some places, depending on how states are kind of set up, and just say, per so many hundreds of thousands of people in an area, regardless of their ethnicity, it's just a numbers game, right? And if you have, let's say 300,000 citizens in one area, it should definitely be based on the overall number of the state and then broken down. Then that way you'll know how many representatives that you need for each state, right? And just break it down by numbers, and people should represent a reasonable amount of numbers. Sometimes it goes up into the millions, sometimes that's in the 100,000s. But to me, that's just the basic way. But they've always used it to cheat when they figured out that they could. Now it's working against them and they don't know what to do. And so AB 2000 says, they're ridiculous. All this for illegal immigrants. And you're not wrong. And it says, why didn't the Dems do it then? They had 4 years, but they flooded us instead. You're right. Right. And you also said they could have redrew the lines. They could have redrew the lines, but they didn't. And I want to say, it seems like they tried, but they couldn't because they were trying to do it on race. And I think they got some pushback from SCOTUS. And Righteous Anger says, fleeing in and fleeing out. Whole lot of fleeing going on, right? Right? Crazy. And she says, get it right, Hakeem. It's American citizens who deserve the right to their citizenship. And then Dr. C said, did he dye his hair? I think it was probably the light, because he is going gray. Yeah, he is kind of stressed out with what's been happening all around him. I wanted to take a quick look just at what I had found. A group that challenges a ruling that potentially weakens the Voting Rights Act. And so the Voting Rights Act, this is what they've been kind of crying about, right? That we've seen. They keep bringing up John Lewis and the voting right. No. Look, people do not want illegal activity going on in their cities and states. And that's why they're voting the way they are. You keep trying to use race to, in your incessiveness, have the upper hand, but it's working against you because it's not working. We are Americans or we're not. We are. Now, with foundational Black Americans and Black Americans that are talking about delineating, they're doing that because there are other racial groups here that have attached themselves to us, right? But at the same time, undermining us. So we're like, okay, everybody needs to go to their respective corners. If you are not of the soil of lineage here in American, you need to stay in your place because you're a guest here. Now, I know some people that have migrated here, but I'm an American too. You left your country and you're here. And you were a guest for a while and now you're an American. Okay. But that doesn't make you lineage to the soil. There is a difference. And we need to start really making that distinction. So I'm just going to read this really quick and stop the stream. Oh, and Righteous Anger says, I'm being sort of messy. There's openings at them African hair mills. can hook him up and take some edges. Ooh, I know. His hair does look interesting. So it says a group of plaintiffs challenging North Dakota, now this is outside of Texas, state legislative maps, came to the Supreme Court on Tuesday asking the justices to block a ruling by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit that could weaken the power of the Federal Voting Rights Act. The plaintiffs, which include 2 Native American tribes and several individual voters, told the justices that the Eighth Circuit is the only area of the country in which private plaintiffs cannot enforce Section 2 of the VRA, which prohibits racial discrimination in voting. Okay. Oh, and Bobby, thank you so much for reposting the stream. So the decision by the Court of Appeals, along with its ruling in a separate case involving redistricting in Arkansas, the plaintiff said, append 60 years of practice and kneecap Congress's most important civil rights statute, something that is especially harmful to Native Americans and these plaintiffs in particular. In light of North Dakota's long and sad history of official discrimination against Native Americans that persists to this day. That's very interesting because Native Americans, obviously they're native of the soil, but they're using the Voting Rights Act that came along a lot later that was actually put in place for Black people so Black people could have representation. I always find it fascinating when people, want to use things like this. And again, when we're looking at the Voting Rights Act, the only reason why it's become messy is because people are weaponizing it. And it's people that want political power and will. They're not doing it or using it because they want to actually help the citizens that they represent. And then in my opinion, that is why a lot of this is failing. This redistricting going on, we will get through it because guess what? At the end of the day, people are going to vote based on who is going to represent them well. And right now, the Democrats are going to lose more than 5 seats in Texas. They're going to start losing seats all over this country. It's going to be bad for them. And for Hakeem Jeffries to say, Donald Trump hasn't done anything. You know what? For a lot of people, he shut the border down. That's what a lot of people voted for, sir. And you were okay with it being wide open. So you better look out for your seat. Okay, I'm just saying. People might vote you out. And Bye says they are scrambling. They are. They have no idea what to do right now. And Unc says this is why, unless you are a foundational to America, you should not have American tag to your ethnicity. Absolutely. That's why I was talking about lineage-based Americans. We are lineage-based Americans. We know our lineage. We can tie ourselves back to the soil. Some of us, even prior to the 1700s, we can go back that far. And we know we are lineage to this soil. And those are the only people that should ever be in our Congress and in our Senate, at our state, local levels. Nobody from any other country should ever be able to run and be in our government in any place. No. You cannot hold a seat. This is why we're in trouble right now. Because we got people that are in seats that shouldn't be holding them, period. And that's just my opinion. I was trying to see if I had any other. Oh, let's see. AB says they could have redrew the lines. You're right. And he says, great show. And they're all going to lose their seats. They are, unfortunately. And with that, we're going to end Monday recap. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing Tell It All Tuesday. And I'm hoping to have, a really good discussion about, it's called RTTL, Return to the Land. And our last comment from Righteous Anger, she says, lineage. Thank you, Marshall. Or Marcia, yes. Lineage. Okay, so again, thank you guys so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News for Monday recap. And with that, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.